What's up, everybody? It's Chad. We're back again with another episode of Ask Chad Grassy Logic. I'm here with my friend Matt and Veronica from The Plug and from High Maintenance as well. They got a couple of things going on, and we'll explore that here in a second. But thank you all for joining me this week, and thank you both for joining me today as my guests. It's great to have you both on finally.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, man. Well, I guess we'll just dive into it. Could you guys go ahead and just introduce yourselves to my listeners?
You.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
So this is my second appearance on the show. I'm Matt Kennicott, co-founder of High Maintenance and The Plug. I've been out there advocating and working on cannabis policy for years, since about 2006 when we had the first medical bill, and since then I've been working on the policy side of things and fighting for legal cannabis in New Mexico for a while now. It's good to be back here.
Nice. Thank you. Go ahead, Veronica.
Yeah, I'm here on the farm with Matt with High Maintenance. I more or less, though, take care of wholesaling our products as well as a bunch of different brands all over the state. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate the intro.
Well, we'll do all that later. It's a lot.
She's in a supervisor role right now.
I'm the boss. Like, just to put it really simple, the boss. Everyone knows that here on the farm. So.
That's right.
Is that what the green bandana means?
Yes. Exactly.
Well, thank you both again for joining me. It's going to be a great episode today. We got some bunch of good topics to talk about. But first, let's go back to y'all's beginning. When did you guys first get involved with cannabis yourselves? And you can answer whichever one you want first.
I mean, I've been consuming for a long time. On the actual policy side of things, like I said, 2006 Linen, Air, and Compassionate Use Act, when we had the first medical bill introduced. I mean, New Mexico medical dates back further than that, as we know, but I've been working on it since about 2006. Under Governor Martinez, I worked a little bit on expansion under the Department of Health. When I say a little, I mean it was just a little expansion. But when this governor came in, I was on the task force as a policy researcher and writer. So it helped research and bring together some of the best practices from other states, which eventually became the Cannabis Regulation Act. So from there, I had Weeds Cannabis Consulting, where we licensed about a quarter of the state, and we've conducted tons and tons of compliance visits across the state in hundreds of facilities. Still do it to this day under High Maintenance. And then a couple years ago, we had the chance to buy the farm that we're on, and we've got a cannabis grow here. We've got really a co-op that we've set up with a couple of other farms. And this year we're working on expanding the actual money-making operation to commercial vegetables and eggs and things like that. So we're building a money-making farm, not just a cannabis farm.
That's
Orchards,
great.
some bees, chickens, possibly goats, like the whole everything.
So it's going to be a farm, like it's the kind of farm I think of, like of the farm of the future for cannabis. It's not just cannabis; it's a whole farm. It's a farm ranch kind of style thing, and it brings a bunch of things together. And I like that. I mean, a lot of other farmers do that too. That it's not just their crops that they have other things too. This just so happens to be something that we consume a different way than other things. So
it's a great way to get the next generation interested too, because growing cannabis is cool, growing vegetables not so cool, but if you have one, might as well do the other.
Yeah. And growing vegetables is very important. We need future farmers, to grow the vegetables we eat. They're not made in a factory. So, it's
not yet.
Not yet anyway. Yeah. They're not 3D printed yet.
Yeah. Give it time. They're trying that with meat, but I'll resist that.
Dude, that scares the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie, It's like, do you want some printed tilapia? No, thank you. That sounds like when I was a kid, they had like this monster candy thing. You had mixed a bunch of things together. You made it. Yeah, it reminds me of that. I'm like, no thanks.
No monster meat, thanks.
Yeah, I'm good on that. but again, we'll see what happens in the future and all that. But we'll get back to the episode. But yeah, that's great. I was more or less wondering, your consumption wise, when you first got involved with cannabis, like what really did you have a different mindset at it, like when you were younger? Because I know I had a different idea until I started educating myself on it.
So I was brought up around it. My mom and dad smoked when I was little, and actually, I didn't even realize that was weed or cannabis till I was older, and I had a friend come over and they're like, "Oh, your mom smokes weed," and I was like, "No, she doesn't. She rolls her own cigarettes." That's what I was told, was they were custom cigarettes. So little me, I've been around it my whole life. Probably the first time I tried it, I was probably like 4 or 5 years old, stole it from my mom, kind of thing. I don't remember. It's always been in my life. So
oh man.
Probably not always in mine. I've been consuming since high school. I mean, we used to hot box one of my buddy's dad's pool rooms. So, you get a big pool with a lot of humidity, and you try to hot box that. That's makes for a long afternoon and night.
Yeah, it does. Did you do it out of the can?
We've smoked out of everything: cans, bottles, fruit, whatever, you name it.
Yeah.
Consuming back then, I don't know. You do it because you think it's cool and it's good. But eventually, I kind of sunk into it being more of a medicine and helping with certain things. And trust me, I love to just smoke to get high. But I'd say somewhere around my late 20s or early 30s, I kind of graduated to using it more medicinally.
He's getting old.
I know that feeling, man. My doctor reminds me all the time, "You're getting old, Chad." I'm like, "Thanks, I appreciate it."
She reminds me.
Yeah, women are really great at that.
Yeah.
Just for the record, right now I'm technically 1 year older than Matt, so I'm wiser for a couple weeks. Anyway.
So you're wiser and he's old. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
So then we'll be the same age in a couple weeks again. So.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. Well, I mean, when's your birthday? I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Mine May 19th, middle May.
Oh, yours is coming up.
Yeah.
Mine was Sunday. So.
Oh, it's Sunday. Oh wow, your birthdays are kind of close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm 3 weeks older. I have so much more experience on this earth, so that's why I'm the boss.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, 3 months makes a huge difference. So, but how did you guys meet? That's a question that I always wondered. Because I don't. Have you guys been together for a long time? How did this happen?
We met in 2017. We were actually both Uber drivers. And there was a group that used to always meet up, when a concert was going on, people would drop them off and then come hang out till the concert was over. And that's where, we started chatting, and, people kept saying, "I think he likes you." And I was like, "No, he doesn't." No, white boy, no. And after a while, he kind of grew on me, I guess. So it's been 6-7 years. Something like that.
Wow. Longer than that, but yeah.
Oh, I'm the one that's bad with dates. We don't have an anniversary or anything, so that way I can't forget it. If we don't have
it's her forgetting, not me.
So the date?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Oh,
yeah, I do. You're in the neighborhood.
I know, it's one of those ones.
I'll remind
you. We got a great reveal right now.
I think we're a little reversed in this relationship.
Oh man, I guess so. That's hilarious. It's good comedy. I'll give you that. It's like movie comedy. Right? So along the lines, of meeting and everything, what really sparked you guys to start the plug?
Geez, I think at one point we it still exists. We saw a big information gap and knowledge gap, but I saw a lot of that at Weeds, where you have a lot of people coming into the industry who are really good growers or manufacturers or whatever they do. They're amazing at it, but they might need a little help on the business side, or even more so on the regulatory side, because stepping into something that's as complicated as cannabis regulation is very, very difficult. So
Yeah.
we kind of saw it as a way to help fill that gap and help small businesses kind of compete on the level with the bigger ones with the same information. Really, that's kind of where it was born from.
Yeah, we were able to see those huge gaps like ourselves, and like we knew kind of how to help fill them. So when we got the farm, we told ourselves like we're gonna dedicate part of our time to helping small businesses. You know.
Yeah, and we had some good co-founders working with us. They really helped on the retail side. In fact, one of the retailers that they helped is now just I think they've doubled their numbers from the previous year because of some of the coaching that they received. So, it's been good. We've really, I guess you could say, transitioned it more into an information thing rather than a membership, and it's helping, I think, still shine a lot of light on different things going on in the industry, whether it's regulations, whether it's the legislative session. We've had this water issue that we've been dealing with. So, I like to think we're a little bit of a hub for information for the industry in the state.
Yeah, and to be honest, we piggyback on each other a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys watching my content have noticed that you'll see my stories will reflect theirs sometimes, or I'll share theirs, or vice versa. We share each other's information, and that's how this works.
We're really busy, and I can't push out the information, so I'm like, Chad, let everyone know.
I just found this out. And I'm like, oh shit!
Exactly.
Or I let them know, hey, I just found this out. Oh shit! Like that water hauling issue. Like that just kind of came out of nowhere. And you guys are helping on that as well. I'm actually going to be in Albuquerque Friday for that meeting with them and everything. So that should be a good time.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, cool. All right, cool. We'll be up there and everything. But yeah, it's great people. They make sure you follow them. Make sure they tell you guys all their socials and stuff like that before we move on to the next stuff. But we have more things to talk about. I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, great people. And you will see their content on mine and vice versa because of the fact that they're probably one of the more accurate people in the industry when it comes to information that, I can trust. Because there's some people when they put things out that I'm like, but we can already do that.
Yeah. Well, and I would say too, information sharing is important because, as we've seen, we've got some people that are way out in the middle of nowhere, and their only real contact with the rest of the industry, the community, is through social media. So I think sharing far and wide is beneficial for everyone. And we put it out there to try and help. So
and even with like this border check issue thing too, we've all been tackling that one, and that one it really affects us mostly in the South, but essentially it affects the whole state at the end of the day. Like we've lost so much money in it, and we'll get more into this later on in the episode. Of course, this is like our other topic of the day. But I just wanted to mention that too, that they were key and helping with this whole border patrol issue thing, and of course it's still ongoing. We haven't solved it yet. There's no fix looking in sight either, but we'll see. Hopefully something happens. But like you guys have been a big help. In the industry. Especially this last legislative session was a shit show, dude. But I appreciate you guys' help.
You're not kidding, man. It was a rough one. And I think the number one priority, the cannabis excise tax, was completely overlooked. And next year we're facing down another increase. And I can almost guarantee you that they won't bring it back down to where it was this year. So, that's going to be a big fight. And it should be.
It is. And to be honest, we were wasting a lot of time on things we didn't need to waste our time on when it came to the legislative stuff. Like it was exhausting. Like last year with the drive-through things. Yeah, we saved them, but that was a big fucking waste of time. Like we wasted a whole 2 weeks on that. And like just that alone, like it took up so much of everybody's time to fight that. And at the end of the day, we could have changed the tax stuff last year versus fighting that. And it didn't happen.
Honestly, my hope is this summer as an industry and as a community, we're more able to educate lawmakers, policymakers, regulators in their cities and towns. That way, when we come with with legislative solutions this next session, they'll not be catching up. Rather, they'll already be educated and ready to tackle these issues head on.
Yeah. And, hopefully the data we gave them with the town halls, and to be honest, thank you guys for helping with that too. They actually hosted one of our town halls for us. I think when you guys went to Clovis and we were in Hobbs at the same time. So we had two coinciding town halls going on. They helped us with that because we're getting down in the nitty gritty for that year. And I appreciate y'all's help and support throughout that whole thing. And, getting that data out to the legislators was important, And,
we appreciate what you guys do, and you do it out of your own pocket. And like, I've already told you this, anytime you guys need any support or any of our connects or whatever, you guys got it.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I can't thank you guys enough. That was clutch for us for sure. It may have been one, but that was an important one. Clovis is a big hub from Texas, so we really needed them to to say their piece too. So hopefully, that helps educating the legislators. Contacting your own legislator yourself, even through an email, to educate them. Maybe they'll read it. Don't do the copy and paste thing. I tell you guys all the time. Like you get those mass emails from Normal and stuff. At least put something of yours at the very beginning, and then leave the copy and paste because they delete those.
Yeah,
yeah.
I would run it for Chat GPT first. Jeez.
Yeah, these days we have technology and AI. You could totally just, they'll read it.
Yeah, if you're be lazy, use AI to be lazy.
Yeah, exactly. There's ways to be lazy these days, more efficiently.
Not get caught.
Yeah, exactly. In the Army, they would say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. But if you got caught, you weren't trying hard enough.
Nice.
Yeah. Which is a funny saying, right? But yeah, like all the issues, I really appreciate y'all's help. And it seems that the industry is starting to wake up and realize that they have to fight too. It can't just be 3, 4, or 6 people doing this. It's going to take a bunch of us to really get this done to what we want. And we can complain all day online and, do the keyboard warrior thing. But when it comes down to it, you got to show up to city council hearings. You got to show up to legislative stuff. I really want to see Cannabis Day again at the legislature. That would be great. That'd be something I'd really look forward to. So we'll see if that happens in the future. We used to have those during the medical years. We had them for a few years, but, we haven't had it since legalization started. We haven't had any. I think it's time that we do
those days, as a former legislative staffer, sometimes you look at them as, what the hell are we doing another one of these days for? But from an industry perspective, they're actually very important because legislators do come through, the staffers do come through. So it is more about than just getting free food or, we can't hand out product, but, free swag and stuff like that. Yeah. So they're important. It needs to come back and it needs to happen again.
We need to get them little green New Mexico states so they can wear on their stuff to, for support.
That's good. That's something we could do for Legislative Day, though.
I think so too. I think it'd be great. I did look into it, and it's something that I'm looking to try and do later this year to try to, put it in. So hopefully, I'll get the paperwork in time. So I'll work with you guys on after this episode.
For sure.
We'll talk about it. But so that's another thing that I guess you guys are going to help me with too, and something like that. And it's great that we have that kind of backup in the industry. I mean, the girls from the town hall sesh, they do such an amazing job. But having other people from other parts of the state, man, that's just game changing. Because we're all in different areas, we can hit different things. I mean, Veronica, you've hit me up on certain things happening. I'm like, well, I'm here. I'm gonna go check it out, or I hit you guys up on something like, oh, you're gonna go like during the legislative session, and I know that was a shit show with things changing, but you guys were at least able to go to places, even though the hearing didn't happen. You're at least able to go when us down south have a harder time. So that
felt like you were like tag team, like, okay, you go, now I go, no, you go. Like, yeah, it was like a tag team thing.
Yeah, it was. I was like, all right, I'm here. Now you're here. Okay, cool. It kind of sucked that I didn't see you guys at the same time, but actually I'm glad we didn't, because that means that we were doing different things in different places, like being in the same place, it's like, oh shit, we're not doing something else. So it was kind of cool, but at the same time, I really like hanging out with you guys and everything. I actually got to hang out with Veronica at one of the consumption lounges in Albuquerque not long ago. Such a fun time. I love that little lounge. I gotta go again. It's a little coffee shop vibe. Yeah. And the origami. Of course, I love the origami everywhere.
Thrive. Shout out to Thrive, Josh.
So, aside from the advocacy and everything like that, let's talk about the farm. I know you guys, have mentioned it a little bit. You kind of have a co-op thing going on. I mean, how many farms are you going to be hosting?
Well, we've got 3 farms out here right now. It's a great setup. Basically what we do is, rather than rent coming in, we all share labor. We share working on the property. Whatever needs to be done around here, we get done together. And everybody's got their own company, so they're entitled to their own profits on their own product. But it makes for a good working situation, because it's helping transition folks into the legal market, as well as establish their own businesses. Eventually, what we want to see is have our friends that are here now move on to their own thing, and maybe we bring a couple of other members of the co-op on once those folks move on. So,
nice.
So I think it's a good way to share resources and get work done. We've got 6 acres, and it's a lot for just 2 people. So, now we've got an army. So
right, and we don't have employees that we have to micromanage. Like, this is their company, so they're in charge of it, and it's a lot. It's nicer than having an employee that's just getting paid X amount and only showing up from one time to another.
Yeah, here and there kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and these days,
we're good. We're even extending that a little bit over to our market garden. So, that way it's another thing that we're not necessarily managing on our own. We'll end up doing a bit of a profit split with the folks helping us with that. So everybody's kind of winning out of the deal. It's been a really good way to kind of restore the land that we're on, and for everybody to get in their piece.
Yeah, to utilize it and everything. I mean, that is a lot of acreage. Like, my brother had 30 acres in Colorado, and I was like, dude, what are you gonna do with this? Yeah, I was like, that's a lot.
That's a big chunk of land.
Right, it is. He sold that property since then, but yeah, I was like, dude, that's a lot. Like, I just want 1 acre. It's like, I'll be happy with 1, man.
Other than growing cannabis and veggies too, we're planning a lot for the future here. We've got an orchard that we're going to put in on the west side of our property, and this summer I'll begin working on putting together a pens for pigs and goats, and we're going to bring turkey and probably broiler hens and all kinds of stuff. So, like we said, working farm. Some of that will probably be part of the co-op too. So
yeah, you guys should get like an alpaca or something.
Oh, I want one. But he just doesn't. If I give him like a good reason how we can profit off of it, then maybe.
Yeah, just make it a petting zoo.
I know, it's hard. $1 a kid.
Right? $1
There we go.
That's
Thanks,
hilarious.
Chad. I'm gonna get my alpaca now.
I'll take 25 cents per kid for that. Oh man, that's great. That's cool that you guys are, you're doing that and everything, and so the high maintenance, how big of a license do you have? Is it a micro?
Yeah, we're micro. Micro. That's it's a lot. We're still beginners very much in growing. I've grown in a temp for a long time, but at this scale, we're very much beginners. So it's got to stay manageable.
Oh yeah, and 200 is still a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of plants. Plus, I think we've seen enough around the state where people have started off way too big and they've crashed right away. And it's just a good general lesson in scale in starting where you can manage and building on that. Yeah. So it's we've seen a lot of powerful lessons like that around the state.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Fortunately and unfortunately.
And personally, I don't want to ever be bigger than like 200. I want to keep it small and craft, so we don't want it to just be our main source of income. Like, we're trying to spread it around. So it's just a little bit.
Yeah, and to be honest, craft is the backbone of not just our industry, but many other industries around the nation that have implemented a craft like licensing kind of thing. And even when I was at the legislature, the legislators and everyone else in the offices, they were, please save our micros, blah blah blah. Please, help the micros, and like the micros are the backbone. And I'm like, wow, I'm like they're really wanting the micros. I'm glad to see that, because that's something that we needed, because you can't just have these 100,000 plant grows and expect everybody to get, quality. I mean, it's at that point, it's almost impossible to get really good quality.
Just recently, I had some retailers hit me up telling me or asking me, bring me some babies, bring me some micros, bring me some fire that my competitors can't and just can't get a hold of, And so, so it's like, all right, I put a calling out to all micros so I could go, through them, vet them first before, sending them down to the dispensaries and stuff. And I think retailers are finally, taking notice. Customers are finally, getting educated a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So, we keep pushing that THC isn't everything thing, and it's starting to work a little.
Story. That's another story. Yeah.
Oh, that's a frustrating story.
Yeah, it is.
I should probably do like a history episode one day of, this whole where this THC thing came from and how we got here where we are, and a lot of it is just the fact we just didn't know better, and now we know better, and now it's like shit, now we got to undo all that.
Well, there is something to be said about stoner logic. I don't think any of us really measured the potency of our weed. It was just, is it a good high or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to go back to that, I think it will be better if we go back to the nose. Does it smoke good? Does it just look good? Let's stop going so much off the numbers. The numbers just should be, is it safe? Or what's in it? Not basing your decision off of buying it off of that. And I think some people misunderstand that sometimes when we try to deliver that message. It's just more or less like, no, you shouldn't. It's like buying beer. Are you buying beer off of the volume of alcohol, or are you buying it off of the flavor? If
you are buying it off volume of alcohol, you're not looking to enjoy it necessarily. It's
exactly.
It'll get you drunk.
Well, nobody walks into the bar and says, give me a shot of Everclear. No. You want something that tastes good. You want to enjoy it.
Yeah. If it's bad tasting, it's at least well.
Yeah.
It's not because it's like 1,000,000%. It's just because it's well.
If we're going to compare cannabis to alcohol, we're probably closer to wine than anything, even though
I say so.
The actual plant is cousin of hops. But terroir and all of the other things that go into wine, a lot of that is found in cannabis as well. So I don't think it's fair to compare us to alcohol, though. Something completely different, and it's just something that I think people have grasped onto without much knowledge. But that's changing. We're developing more knowledge. So
yeah, it is, and it's the best comparison we can really give people, because we haven't really had something in a regulatory framework, such like cannabis too, since like alcohol, tobacco. So, it only makes sense to do that. But yeah, it's really not fair to say, well, we need to regulate it like alcohol. It's like, oh, why? It's like, is that even like a good way that we did it? Should we maybe have that conversation first? Did we do that correctly?
Well, I think the regulatory environment will eventually evolve too. Mm-hmm. I mean, the more experience we get with stuff, the better we would hope we get at regulating things. That hasn't necessarily been the American government experience, but we can still keep our fingers crossed.
yeah, and especially with the very polarized environment we're in right now, it's going to take some time. I do see some slow changes coming on all fronts, essentially, even from the consumer side to the political side. This year passing psilocybin with literally no effort, essentially, was one of those signs. That they're getting it, because seeing some of the most conservative Republicans in New Mexico be a sponsor of that bill and then almost cry on the floor when he talks about certain stories and stuff, like, blew my mind. I was blown away, and I really thought we were in for 4 to 5 years, and I even told them that I was like, we're probably in for 4 to 5 years on this guy, so get comfy. But they pushed it through, and I was even shocked on that. So.
Well, and the stories of the use as medicine have become so mainstream today. It's almost a no-brainer at this point. I think it ended up with a solid piece of legislation that it's going to help advance psilocybin medicine and psychedelic medicine. It's awesome.
I think so too. Yeah, I do too. I think it's amazing. You know, like my veteran buddies will be able to benefit from this. You know, and you know many other people in New Mexico. We're the only third state to do this. So I mean, you know, sky's the limit really. And I think we're taking a safer approach than we probably would have if we did this maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You know, I think this is the correct way to do it. And some people may disagree with that. But at the same time, you know, we have to remember people are people and people do people things. So, you know, we have to try to do harm reduction as much as possible when it comes to that. And look, we got a little celebrity with us. Look at this little bikini babe right here. I saw him playing in the pool earlier.
Yeah. He's half asleep right now. It's her nap time.
Yeah, he's cute. I got to hang out with him when I went to their farm one time. But you know, where's your guys' product at? I wanted to ask that before we move on to the next topics that we have here.
Right now, Impact Farms, Galileo. I don't think right now. I just smoked. You can't put. I told you, no asking questions. I don't know.
Impact Galileo for sure.
Mindscape, Gray Moon, Nomad, Better Days down.
Yeah, Better
Days down in Eunice. Shout out to them. Yeah, I think that's about it. So like,
we'll have some hash holes coming soon, being rolled by Zia Terp Hunters.
The Rosins by Zia also.
Yep.
Cool.
So those will be out soon too.
Dope. Well, congratulations on that. I mean, a lot of like those hash holes have taken over New Mexico, and I'm glad that you guys are jumping on that too. I love hash holes.
There's some really good hash holes out there too.
They're just fun.
Yeah.
It's just a fun product. Yeah.
And for those who don't know what a hash hole is, unfortunately, if you don't, what it is, it's a joint, and before you roll it, they essentially put a sliver of hash rosin in there, like a little snake or a worm, sometimes they call it. Then you roll it up with it, and if you do it correctly and you don't mess it up, when you smoke it, it'll have a hole in it, like a donut, as you smoke it. So you know it's cool, tastes good, all that good stuff. So if you didn't know, that's what it is. But congratulations on that. I'm glad that you guys, you know, are you know, I wouldn't say like advancing, but you know, just experimenting more. You know, you're kind of digging into it, see what works, see what doesn't. That's the fun of this. You know, that's the fun of the industry.
That's the fun of running your own business too. You know, you get to set your own agenda and decide what you want to do and who you want to be. So
yeah,
you know, play around with it a little bit.
Yeah, have some fun. You know, like this is not all serious. Why so serious? You know, not everything has to be. So, but thank you both for joining me on here. Let's get on to the next conversation and everything. But is there anything else you guys want to mention before we move on?
No, I don't think so. You know, we're just out here having fun building the farm. So, stopping by for a smoke sometime.
Right.
Heck yeah! And where can people find you online? And you know, I guess you already told me in the stores, so we don't have to say that.
You know all the handles.
Well, right now we currently only have one. High maintenance NM2. The NM plug 2 that will probably come back here shortly. Those are the two main ones.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then our website.
What is our website? It's just like our email. Our website is hmcompany.co. hmcompany.co. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. When I saw the email, I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
So, but thank you both again for joining me. It's been great talking about this, and you know, even I learned a few more things about you guys too. So, you know, it's been great to finally get you on the show. But let's get on to this next topic, and this is a topic that you all have been hammering hard. You know, I've been there, but you guys have been hammering this one hard. It's the Border Patrol issue, and this is an issue that it's not improving. Unfortunately, it's kind of getting worse. Even an ex-employee of Adams Radio was tied up in this. He works for Herb now. And they took $400 of product, his personally owned vehicle, and you know, held him for quite a few hours. So it's unfortunate. And that was 3 weeks ago.
Him and I've been playing a little phone tag. So if you're watching, I'm still trying to get in touch with you, dude.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll remind him too. So you know, I know he's busy. So yeah, I'll let him know to remind him. But yeah, you know, like, it's unfortunate that this is happening to us. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, so New Mexico, I think we're the only borderplex in the whole nation. So we have 2 states and a country all touching together, and you know, a bunch of cities close to the border. You know, where I'm sitting right now, we're about 30 miles from the Mexico border itself. My hometown, Alamogordo, is about 70. So I grew up in southern New Mexico, and I'm used to living in the borderland. It's never been anything crazy to me. Even during the wars of, the Juarez wars with the drug wars, like in 2006 and 7, like I never really feared. I mean, we didn't go to Juarez to party anymore, but, there was really not much of that fear. So it's unfortunate that this happens. But every direction that you go in Las Cruces, north, south, east, or west, you're eventually going to run into a border check. And they're inland border checks that aren't near any port of entry. You haven't left the country or anything. These are just border checks that are like a secondary to the one when you come into the country. Now, another thing that they do is they set them up sometimes in north of Las Cruces in Tier C, and they'll set up a third one. So essentially a second inland border check on top of the first one. And so what they're doing is they're actually confiscating like people's vehicles, cannabis product from the legal cannabis product from New Mexico and everything. That's been going on for about a year now. Before that, they were kind of hands off and really not messing with us. But, as of last year on Valentine's Day, they've been just really vamping up more and more and getting worse. And so
they also seize any cash you have on hand, and any checks, they will cash them. So cancel them immediately if that happens.
They've cashed one so far.
Oh my God.
So a little bit of a timeline on this. So Chad, you mentioned that the first seizure was last year on Valentine's Day, and since then things have definitely escalated. Last year there were a couple of seizures where personal vehicles were seized at a checkpoint at the US 70 checkpoint outside Alamogordo and White Sands. Since the start of last year, we're now up to a retail value of $1.6 million that's been seized, either in product, either in flour, carts, edibles, in cash. So they've put a hurting on these companies in southern New Mexico, and honestly, it's kind of created two different markets in a lot of ways, because there are operators now that will not leave the southern New Mexico and Las Cruces area. So they're kind of stuck down there, and then you have everything else.
Yeah.
So it's created some chaos there. It's definitely increased operational costs for every operator trying to get through the border checkpoints. And it's created a lot of uncertainty in the market down there. We've pulled out all the stops for this. We've had a pretty solid, I think, PR campaign going. We're getting ready to ramp up the second part. I'm actually building a website for the border stuff now. I hope to launch that within the next week. There's a group of 8 that actually filed a lawsuit against Customs and Border Patrol saying, look, you've been seizing all this product. We haven't had any due process at all. Up until recently, they weren't giving any documentation for any of the seized product or cash. That's changed since the lawsuit. But basically, the government has been saying we don't have any standing because we're just doing our jobs to enforce the law. We're saying, you haven't given us due process. You need to at least do that. And oh, by the way, you're not enforcing this anywhere else in the country, so you're violating the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution as well. So we've got this lawsuit currently pending. The feds have until, I'm looking at the calendar, mid-April, I believe, to file their final response. We'll see what happens. If the court takes our arguments, that means we move on to the next phase, which is discovery, which I would really, really love to get into in this case, so we can see more of those government records and decision-making process. But in the meantime, we got to keep the pressure on. So we've also got a lobbying effort at the federal level. Our attorneys at Greenspoon Martyr are very well connected federally. They also work with a lobbying partner out there just on cannabis issues. And they've been busy contacting our congressional delegation and meeting with other members of Congress and eventually the White House. But they have brought language to our congressional delegation that's going to end up in the next federal budget and hopefully pass through the entire process that says Customs and Border Patrol, you do not have authority to use federal money to enforce the law against state legal cannabis. Something like that has already been done at the DOJ. It was called the Cole Memo. President Trump rescinded that during his first term, but it's still largely used, and the DOJ really does not prosecute cannabis cases anymore unless they're super illegal and egregious. So we're basically just asking for similar treatment under the law. These seizures have to stop, though. Just in the last 2 weeks, there were an additional 2 vehicles seized with an additional 3 seizures, and it looks like they're targeting now as well. There was one company that went through the I-25 North checkpoint, and they actually asked a new driver where the usual driver was. So they're definitely spotting folks. And then, we drive south quite frequently. We're actually just in Juarez the other day for dental work.
Yesterday.
Yeah. Wait, was that yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday. Holy shit.
We're all over.
Yeah. So we noticed that the Tier C, the Border Patrol checkpoint north of Tier C was open in the morning when we were heading south. So they're doing some of that now too. So it's a heavy issue. I don't think there's any real end in sight necessarily, at least in the immediate future. We're definitely working on a lot of solutions and trying a lot of things. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Also looking for some big influencers who are looking to get behind it.
Yeah.
So far, I haven't had any luck. Everyone's too scared. So we need someone who's not scared. Someone like a Burner or something that's not scared of the government.
Definitely need a heavy in the community to kind of step up and have an active voice in this if possible. So that would be great. That'd be a huge help.
Maybe try to reach out to Exhibit. Recently, he's been kind of accepting his New Mexicanness. He lived in New Mexico for or Albuquerque.
Oh, that's right.
He just did an interview with someone. Who was that?
He did, and he kind of almost apologized. Like, I should have accepted my New Mexico-ness a long time ago, because he shared his history. I was like, dude, you're New Mexican, bro. Like, you're just sharing things like you're freaking from New Mexico, bro. There's no way. So and he's trying to make it right. He's supporting more New Mexico stuff and artists and things, and maybe this is something that he would get behind. Maybe try to reach out to him or something like that. That's one place to start.
And honestly, we're getting ready to kick off an effort to raise some money for this too, because right now everything's being funded out of the companies that are involved pockets. But we all know how the market is. We all know how tight cannabis is to start with. Everybody in this business is not a millionaire. And so we're gonna start going out to the community here soon to help raise some money to help us see this thing through. It's going to be a long fight, but the fight is worth it, because really we're not just looking at New Mexico at this point for this issue. This is going to be something that helps the industry across the entire country. So we're definitely going to go out and start asking for funds. We've got some cool stuff we've been talking about, and we should see. I think we're going to start seeing some T-shirts here pretty soon to start showing support too. That's the easiest way to get started. So
some fun ones too, not boring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're working really, really hard on this issue. We meet every week and talk through it. I've been coordinating this group for over a year now. We've stuck together pretty well, and just need to keep working through this, because I believe we can make a change on this. It's just going to continue taking more work.
Yeah, I agree. It's something that we can't let down on. And it's good that those 8 business people or businesses decided to do this lawsuit, because without it, we would just be stuck doing nothing. And, it shows that when you fight, something might happen, or we could maybe change everything, and hopefully we do, because this wouldn't just be for us. This would be for everybody in the whole nation, because that the 100-mile thing applies to all borders of the whole nation. It's just unfortunate that we get fucked with the most,
Well, and there is a little bit of overlap with another big case out of the Northeast called Canna Provisions. They're basically making a 280E argument, though, saying, hey, feds, you haven't been enforcing the Controlled Substances Act up here. You're allowing us to operate. So therefore, we shouldn't be subject to 280E. So there's some overlap there, but there could be a little conflict as well, because we're making an equal protection argument saying, well, you're only enforcing it on us.
Yeah.
So, honestly, potentially this could be a case that in 5 or 6 years you could see end up in the Supreme Court. I mean, that's the big potential for this case, because I don't think people realize how many layers are truly involved in this, other than what we're just seeing here on the surface in New Mexico.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It goes deeper and deeper. And, I'm glad you brought up that lawsuit over on the East Coast, because that one's very important too. And there's been a couple of lawsuits that are kind of similar in that sense, where they're kind of saying, hey, since this and this, why are you doing this and not enforcing this? Or, since this, you shouldn't be enforcing this. And that's kind of been the case with those. And some of them, they've lost or been dismissed, whatever. But, hopefully something happens with that one, and hopefully something positive for once. Because just lately, man, we've been taking L's in the cannabis industry.
I know. Well, honestly, there's a lot of conflict in the industry in general that needs to be sorted out. It's not just the Border Patrol case or anything else. There just is inherent conflict because the feds still look at it as a Schedule 1 substance, and we're out here as states and trying to pioneer this new industry. So there's conflict, but it's got to be addressed hopefully sooner rather than later, because we're a legit industry now. New Mexico is $1 billion industry. There's other states that are much, much larger than that, and they pay federal taxes.
Yeah, and I think they projected by 2033 that we're going to be like a $100-something billion industry or something like that nationwide. And that's huge. That's a lot of money, and the federal government gets money from us every year, regardless of this being legal or not. At least let us claim some freaking taxes. Shit. It's rough out there, homie.
Business, come on.
Yeah, we're legitimate businesses now. You wanted us to do this, and we did, and now you're punishing us. So I'm thank you guys, so much for fighting on this and everything, and keeping everybody involved, and keeping me informed on it too. Like I've said before, we can't be everywhere. I can't be everywhere. So it's great that there's different groups working on different things, because I would go crazy if I was just one person, or you guys would go crazy if you were just the only people working on it. So thank you so much for taking up this one. Eventually I want to have the people on that are working on the water hauling issue thing too. And we could have talked about that some today too, but I want this to kind of play out more until we get, even more information on it. So that way you can kind of explain it. I've talked about it on the show a couple times, but I haven't really dug in with anybody else who's been involved with it, because this was interesting too, because this came out of left field and everything too. So that'll be an interesting topic to, especially when they decided to just come down the way they did. I was like, oh, damn. So
the Albuquerque Journal is writing a story on it now. I know a couple of folks have been contacted by a reporter, including myself. So I would expect a more in-depth public piece to run next week about the issue and what's happening. So something to look forward to. It's something that's been in the community and in the industry for a while now. Mm-hmm. But I don't think a lot of people outside of us really know what's been happening.
Yeah, especially because like other states like Oklahoma, they have like unlimited water. So this isn't an issue to them to start out with, like for us, water is everything, like it's just, we haven't had rain in almost a year. So, that sums up of how important water is here in New Mexico. So yeah, this water hauling issue, it could have crippled many people. But yeah, that'll be another topic for another day once we get in more into it, especially after that article comes out. And we get more people speaking. And of course I want to go to that meeting this week and, talk to everybody too, and get more everybody's, views on that. So, but anyway, thank you so much for that topic and everything, and the update on the Border Patrol issue. We just got to keep pushing on it and just keep fighting. Just be careful out there, y'all. You know, they're gunning for us as usual. So, but yeah, anyway, let's go to this last topic that we have for the day, and I'll let you guys get back to your farming and stuff. You know, you gotta get ready for the piggies. But this last one, you know, we're going to be talking about, you know, the broke elephant in the room, which is the title of this episode. And this is actually an issue that isn't just in New Mexico, isn't in just Colorado. This is a nationwide issue. Now, this is something that every state that has an adult use cannabis program is going through, and that's people not paying vendors. And now also people not paying just their bills in general. You know, even testing facilities are in on this too. So recently, you know, for years, I've been getting people coming to me, DMs and stuff like that. So-and-so doesn't pay their bills. So-and-so owes me this much. So-and-so owes that much. And some of this stuff goes up to tens to thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars that people owe. And that's unfortunate. And to be honest, like, it's getting to the point where it's a problem. And like I said, it's a national problem. And here in New Mexico, it's to the point where it's like, God damn it, Bobby. You know, because it's so frustrating that it's this common to run into, you know, like it shouldn't be. And I mean, you guys can, you know, give me your explanation. You don't have to say names or anything like that, but I'm sure, you know, you've had your own experiences on, you know, this stuff too, you know, and I know Veronica's been dealing with it for the past couple of days now, but, you know, if you guys want to, you know, share your story and everything, you know, please, by all means. Or
no, it's just really sad that some of us have to go to those measures. And yeah, I don't want to be the mean one. I really don't. Like, but if someone has to come up and start outing these people, because soon it's going to start putting businesses out of business if it hasn't already. I had a little micro just yesterday or last night tell me about like 3 accounts that went unpaid, and then those dispensaries closed shop. And those amounts aren't a couple $100s. They were, you know, $4,000, $7,000, and for a little baby micro, that's huge. Mm-hmm. And yeah, COD guys, COD every single time. So this doesn't happen. You know, this doesn't happen. It doesn't have to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not just retailers, you know, it's manufacturers too, not paying for testing labs or paying out their splits, or growers not paying contractors that came out and built their farm. You know, we hear it all. It's across the entire industry, not just, you know, one section. Yeah.
Yeah. There've been articles on California, especially because there's multi-millions of dollars there that have gone uncollected. So, I don't think New Mexico will get to that point, but we gotta lose that street or trap mentality and start acting like business people, because we are. If we want to be treated legitimately, we need to act legitimately, and that's not a good way to act.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I've even been a victim of it, you know, even with like a split, you know, someone wanting to get more than what they're entitled to. It's like, we already gave you your split. Like, what more do you want? And you already dug into one of our jars that you weren't entitled to, you know, like, what more do you want from us? And we gave you free work, you know, washed over like 100 pounds for free and didn't get anything from that. Like, what do you want from us? You know, like, and like, sometimes I don't get that. And I'm like, you know, like, what the hell? So,
or as a grower, you hand over product and like have to trust that the manufacturer is, you know, telling you the truth. And sometimes, you know, they'll change the whole deal on you once product is in their hands and it's BioTrack. Then it's, oh, well, we're going to do it this way, by the way, you know, and it gets ugly.
Yeah, you know, and we've all had to learn lessons. I've learned lessons myself too. You know, even recently, you know, we all learn lessons and everything. But if you guys don't know what we're really talking about, a lot of the vendors sometimes, we'll just give an example. A retail place will put an order with some grower. You know, he got 10 pounds, and he told him, "Hey, we'll do net 30. So, you know, I'll try to pay back in 30 days when I sell this." 30 days comes, nothing. 60 days comes, nothing. It goes on and on and on for months and months, and the grower never gets paid for that 10 pounds. Maybe that grower is a micro. He needs that money to get by, never gets paid. But that retailer made all the money, never calls the guy back. And really, there's no way that we can really go after these people other than suing them. You know, there's no standardization on how to deal with this. There's nothing in the law that changes anything in the license or forces them to pay. So there's this little hang up and weirdness that's going on that we don't know what to do, because this is every state. And that's the unfortunate part, is no one's fixed this issue yet. And like when people were trying to close the licenses, I'm like, well, what about the people that like haven't been paying their bills? They think they're doing good, but then they go out of business because they weren't paying their bills. Then we have no one to take over that spot. You know what I mean? Like we're still haven't figured out all our little hiccups that we have, the little nuances like this, you know, and this is something that no one's really talking about. And, you know, the fact that you brought it up, maybe more people will.
Yeah, and I had somebody reach out from Oklahoma and California as well, saying it's the same thing is happening there. And actually, I got offered to go on another podcast to talk about it. I think the guy's in Oklahoma. I need to still do some research, but yeah. To like, it's a big deal, and like I said, no one's talking about it. Everyone's afraid that if they out the retailer or the person that owes them money, then they're really not going to get any money.
Yeah.
So people just stay hush hush, but you know, staying hush hush, like I found, like doesn't get me paid. Like it doesn't get my grower paid. So yeah. No,
I mean,
but there are some.
We all gotta eat.
Yeah, but there are some amazing businesses out there that do pay their bills. They do hold their word. Like we work with a bunch of them. They're not all bad, but there are a few, you know, ones that should probably not have been given this opportunity.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I don't know what they're doing with the money, you know, going on vacations or what. Because like some of these people, I'm like, dude, you're hunting again? Like you should be working. What the hell? I know how much it costs to go hunting, brother. You know, it's not all free.
For 10 hours.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, like it's unfortunate that this is happening. And like I said, and you know, there's even been videos, I think last year, a video appeared, and I think this company was here in New Mexico for a little bit. And I think the CEO was talking about like, yeah, when we buy from these little baby businesses and we don't pay them back and they go out of business, well, we just made 100% profit because we don't have to pay them back, you know? And like, that pissed me off, you know, because it's like, dude, what the hell? Like, you know, you're doing this on purpose now is what it seems, you know? This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't, you know, something happened and things had to change. It was just you not giving a shit, you know?
I think there's unethical business people out there that use it as a business strategy.
Yeah.
They know they can try to outlast the small guys for the most part. And in some cases they think they can do it to bigger operations too. Yeah.
Oh, dude, and the problem goes from the mom and pops to the MSOs. Like it's victims on both sides and perpetrators on both sides from both areas. And like that's what's so shitty is it's everybody's doing it. Like I've heard from the biggest MSOs in New Mexico down to some of the smallest businesses in New Mexico, you know, not paying their bills and then not getting their, you know, people not paying them. And then talking before the show, Veronica had mentioned to me that there's layers to this even, God damn it. So even on the testing side, she found out that, you know, there's a lot of people that weren't getting paid too. So now we have, you know, a lot of producers and manufacturers and stuff like that who aren't paying the testing facilities on time and everything too. Like I get it, it's expensive. And, you know, we're all trying to figure things out, but, you know, it's unfortunate that that's happening, you know, like.
And they're just jumping from one lab to another. So the labs need to start sharing information too and start blacklisting people. Hey, this guy has a bill of 10 grand. Don't test any product for him. Yeah, because, I had no idea it was that bad.
Yeah, I didn't either. And it's like when you start researching something and you're like, what? Then you go down a rabbit hole, you know, and then that rabbit hole just got bigger. Then you eat the mushroom and you get smaller and then everything else is just, you know, it gets all crazy and, you know, a little murky in that sense. But, you know, I'm glad that you dug that up.
And all night I was just getting message after message about another business, another. People are like, oh, will you out this company or that company? It's like, guys, I'm not going to out anyone. Like this was my personal story that I told. I can't vouch for any other story, like just mine. So like you guys got to do it too. Like everyone has to do their little part.
Yeah. You know, and like I said, we're not going to name names or anything like that. You know, it's just unfortunate that this conversation has to happen this way. You know, I wish it didn't. But, you know, hopefully in the future, we'll start weeding people out who don't pay their bills. Cause like I owe a buddy a couple $100 right now. I'm just waiting for him to come into town. You know, I'm not like dodging him. I'm just waiting for him to show up.
Communicate. Like,
you know, at least communicate. Like,
communicate. Like, exactly.
Have a plan or show some good faith. You know, that's all it would have taken is an act of good faith. Like, you know, here's a couple little payments. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, after 8 months, like, after, you know, months and months with other people waiting, it gets old.
Yeah.
Some are years.
Yeah, you know, and the communication thing is key and helps a lot. You know, and I get people forget. You know, I forget shit. You know, we all do. Remind someone, oh shit, my bad. I'll get you whenever. You know, that's fine. You know, that happens. You know, but if you're like dodging people, not answering their calls on purpose, going on vacation with the money that with the money that you got from their product that you're not paying back, then we start getting into some issues. You know, like it's not just like I'm busy.
And we had one retailer not be able to pay us, but you know what? He communicated, and we now own a tractor because of it. So it's like, we're willing to trade or barter. Like, just talk to us. Come on.
My grandpa got a bar that way in Alamogordo back in the day. I don't know if you guys ever knew Jerry's in Alamogordo next to Quick Stop. My grandpa owned that bar, then he gave it to my uncle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he got it because a guy owed him money, and he said, "Well, I don't have money, but I got this bar with a liquor license." My grandpa said, "I'll take it."
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty much what happened. They're like, we have a tractor. It's like, well, we have a farm, so
those are expensive, so we'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. And you know what? Like communication, you ended up with a good result. You know, at the end of the day, and you guys can continue doing business. You know, maybe they apologize. I don't know what the situation was, whatever. But at the end of the day, you got your payment. Say what?
He went out of business. I think.
Makes sense. You know, and that might happen to some of these people. You know, that's why we need to kind of let the industry kind of do its thing, but we also need to figure out what we're going to do when we run into the problems like this, and how are we going to, I want to say oust people, but inform people that this is going on, but also inform them correctly, because, we got to get all sides of the story, make sure that something isn't either being made up or someone isn't telling the whole story or something like that. That's where we run into this whole other thing. And that's where all these layers come in too, and it gets deeper and deeper. And I'm sure we're going to, discover a little bit more things in the coming months with this. But, I can only hope that, the people that haven't been paying their bills start paying their bills, or at least communicate with the people that they haven't been paying their bills with and figure something out. Like maybe it's not money, maybe it's a tractor. Maybe it's services they can provide, something to pay it back. Wash their dishes. I don't fucking know. But, like help them out there, because, like this industry's rough. Paying $280 ain't easy. And especially when the Border Patrol is taking our shit left and right, it's really hard to get by. So, that's really all I have to say for that. Do you guys have anything else before we end the show today?
No.
I don't think so. It's like you said, it's a rough industry. It's not like any other business, and being pioneers is it's not an easy path, but it's interesting, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
never a dull moment or a day over here. Like always something going on.
It's not, and you know what? Like I looked historically, if alcohol went through similar things that we're going through now, and they did, like similar things too. When they went legal, I was like, you know what? Did they go through this too? And I was like, okay, these are just growing pains. All right, cool. At least I feel this is normal. We just gotta
diaries like published.
I don't know, and we need to do a better job on the cannabis side to have that available in the future for the future generation. Because I'm sitting here wondering that when I should have known that. The struggles.
Is it Ken Burns? Did Ken Burns do the documentary on alcohol in America? There's a really cool docuseries about called Alcohol. It's about alcohol in the United States, and it goes from the inception of the country to today. It's really good because it talks about a lot of those struggles. So
yeah,
could be worth watching again.
Yeah, I think I will. And, I can compare. There we go again, comparing. But, we can, at least compare to what we're going through right now. Because like we said, legally, legislatively, it's similar paths. And psilocybin's going through the same path right now. So, we'll just see. Maybe we can learn from our prior mistakes, and maybe we'll see that, okay, this is just a normal thing. Or maybe I'll get an idea, or we'll get ideas to how to solve this issue or how to address it, through what they did in the past. So, but anyway, thank you both so much again for joining me today. It was such a great conversation. Thank you for the updates and everything. Make sure you guys give them a follow. If you're not sure, you'll most likely see their stories on my story from sharing and stuff like that with everything going on in the state. I'll try to keep you guys updated as always. But like I said before, don't forget to like, subscribe, whatever you got to do to stay in the know. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. Shoots.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chad.
Wow.